morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Honey Cholapansanarula, very delighted to be here as your moderator, and it's a pleasure to have distinguished panelists joining us on stage for the discussion on ASEAN's next wave, next sector opportunities to capture global FDI. As we know, we started off the year with a rather different global environment with the heightened geopolitical tensions, the ongoing trade and tariff disputes, not to mention the recalibration of supply chains. And there's plenty more to keep you all busy and sleepless at night. And just to remind you, this is only January. So many more months to go in this year of the horse, a rather wild and untamed horse, I would say. But despite that being mentioned, we still see capital moving. So the next big question for businesses is no longer whether to grow, but where and how to grow. So this very session, ladies and gentlemen, will try to hammer out and help you navigate the uncertainties, to pinpoint, to identify the opportunities, and move beyond the single market mindset towards a more regional strategy. And ASEAN is a great diversification story which can attract long-term quality foreign direct investment, or FDI. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, before we dive into the opportunities, since I mentioned of the uncertainties in this very fragmented world, so let's begin with hearing our speakers' perspectives on the global volatility and how do you see this actually impacting the investors, how they assess ASEAN today. So let me begin with Mr. Lim.
Good morning everyone. Happy New Year. Before I start, actually, I just want to do a quick introduction about Frasers Properties. Maybe the slide is up or not. Just a few slides to show before I get to the question itself. Yeah. Is it up? Yeah, okay. Frasers Property is actually a company that listed in Singapore Stock Exchange. We actually have presence about 20 countries, about 40 cities in the world. So we have business across all the real estate asset classes, commercial business park, hospitality, retail mall, industrial park, and also residential. So our business is actually covered mainly in ASEAN, which is Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam. Of course, we're in Australia and in Europe as well. Our AUM at the moment is about 49 billion. About 50% of our portfolio actually in ASEAN. That's why today the topic is very relevant to us for our business. So quickly in Thailand, actually today we'll talk more on Thailand and Vietnam, not so much on other countries, not Singapore. Thailand and Vietnam itself. In Thailand, actually we are quite established as a listed platform in Thailand. So we do have a business in the industrial, retail mall, offices, and also one of the last year launched the largest integrated development in Thailand is called One Bangkok. So in Vietnam itself, we do have industrial, offices, and residential. I just say that actually we believe the future of Asia, and we are actually still very bullish on its potential. You can see actually we have 50% of our portfolio in ASEAN. The shifting of the global landscape by the supply chain is really a move at the moment. Our business in the industrial logistics actually can really feel the pulse of the changes. The investor relocation from China, especially, we all know the reason. The trade war itself is one of the key reasons. But second reason is actually after the so-called Liberation Day last year in April, most of the company manufacturers is trying not to putting their business in one place. They try to be diversified to give themselves a bit more option. I think in ASEAN, to be honest, we are in the very ideal situation to attract all the FDI flow. There are a few reasons, because we have a huge population here. Workforce, labor cost is still considered relatively competitive in the markets. That is actually a plus point for ASEAN, especially for Vietnam and Thailand. I will talk about Vietnam later on during this panel, but I think both Thailand and Vietnam do have the advantage on it. And more importantly, actually, we have quite a comprehensive supply chain. Mm-hmm. That is actually one of the key reasons that the shift of the global supply chain, one of the considerations is coming to Thailand. I think that's some of the I will talk a bit more on real estate later, but this is how I feel on the current situation.
So
Thank you.
overall, ASEAN is still attractive. Let me come to Kun Somruedee now. Does this resonate with you as well?
Thank you very much, and Swee. Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Bangkok Bank, for having Banpu here in this panel sharing. Maybe because we invest in the 4 ASEAN countries, plus 3 Asia, and plus 2 more, Australia and the US. So I am happy to represent Banpu to share all of these, how we can turn the mega trend into opportunities. For this first approach on how investor will look into investing in ASEAN, I believe that with the 3 mega trends that have presented, it is just an acceleration of how to diversify from their existing investment countries into ASEAN because of those 5 mega trends, especially the geopolitical conflict plus the shifting in the trade flow. Those accelerate the diversification so that the investment will not be concentrated in the Western countries or the areas that have conflicted. What we will have to prepare is that we will have to be ready to receive all of those FDI. We believe that the FDI will be coming more and more into ASEAN countries, 11 countries. What we will need to prepare is the infrastructure, both on the digital part and on the other infrastructure like electricity, clean energy, and the digital platform. Secondly, on the people, we will need to build the talents, and we need to start from a very early education plan for long term. So the education for AI, for STEMs going forward will have to be very well established. And finally, we will have to prepare for the government support on the regulation system and process so that it can be another ease of investment as BOI have in their fast pass plan. I believe these are the example that our ASEAN countries can be prepared so that we will be the hub of the shift in the risks and diversification from the political conflict and shifting in the trade flow area into ASEAN.
Kun Teddy, what are you seeing from Indonesia? The global volatility, has it changed the way investors are looking at ASEAN and Indonesia?
Thank you. Before I start, probably I give a pretext that as the Merdeka Group, we have mining in gold, copper, and nickel. It'll probably make sense later when I lay out my thought framework, right? Given that we have over 30 million ounces of resource in gold, 400 million tons of resource in copper, and over 1 billion within our company in resource for nickel. Now, my thought framework, though, is I don't think geopolitical is something new. It's something that has happened for the best part of the decade. I think we should be honest with ourselves. We have been experiencing this. Unfortunately, this development caused every country to start rethinking for themselves, to be more defensive. And we have started to see that protectionism coming true. So the first reaction that we have seen is the hoarding of resources. So I think from Indonesia perspective, the lucky part is including the business group I'm in, we do have that resources. But the next question is, how much further each of the government would go to protect its own resources? And we are likely, I think, to embark into a situation where some investment may be necessary, but costly. And I draw a parallel in copper, for example. We know there's no large new copper resources coming out anytime soon, but there are a massive amount of smelter facility. If you ask any copper smelter, their payback is like 20 years to 200 years. There's no margin. But you're likely to see the United States, you're likely to see the likes of even Indonesia forcing the upstream to develop a very expensive billion-dollar smelter The reason is because you do not want a single part of your supply chain relying on other country, because then it prevents you from further developing your further downstream. So I think that's the reality we are in. Of course, with geopolitical issue, having such a large gold resources, we don't really mind, right? Because that's the hedge. But I think it comes to a point where a lot of the business investment, it's not likely to be done like the old times when you can go a top down. Let's go in partnering in every sector for this bilateral or multilateral across the region. I think investment has to be done with the hard work of bottom up, identifying each company's key strength, each region's key strength, and then do almost a bilateral partnership and investment between company to company of very specific line of industry between two countries. It may sound like a chaos, but I do believe over time we will see the order on the chaos, because you champion the competitive advantage from each of the company or the country itself.
Kun Yeap, what's your take on this?
Good morning, and can you allow me a few minutes to talk about my company? Not too long. Yeah.
Sure.
Can I have the slides? Yeah. 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 Can you just help me to push it? Yeah, we are a public listed company. I think in a public listed company, we have to follow all the things that this morning what Kun Chatsuri said, ESG governance. I think that is one of the advantage to be public and to raise funds. Yeah. So just a comment. Yeah. We are also in the ESG index of 100 companies in Thailand. Next, then the car industry, I think this is the trend of the car industry in the global context. You can see the industry will continue to grow. I think there's opportunity in the car industry. Next. This is Thailand. I think Thailand has went through a little bit ups and downs, but I think the trend is still positive in Thailand. Yeah, we started from Thailand. I'm from Malaysia, but we started from Thailand. Yeah, we listed in Thailand. We have expanded to China. We have expanded back to Malaysia. We are in Portugal. Recently, we set up groundbreaking in America. Next. Can you move on? Yeah, I think why I show this graph is we can start in Thailand from a small little company in Ayutthaya. And I think there's opportunity to grow. In the last couple of years, you can see the trend has come down. But I'm putting an arrow upwards again. I think in Thailand, we are competitive. The car industry, we are very good in pickup. We are one of the best pickup manufacturers in the world. I mean, whether I can say it, we have something in America, but I think the quality of cars produced in Thailand, we work on 0 ppm, 0 parts per million. All companies supply parts have to be that quality. And delivery is 100%. 99.9 is not good, because if one part from a plant does not go to the assembly plant, a car is off the line. So I think we can be very proud of Thailand. We have a very good product. Yeah? The manufacturing base in Thailand is excellent for the car industry. And I must compliment the government. You have excellent policies every time there is some changes. And a big change now is the Chinese coming to Thailand. So I hope better policies will come in as well. Next. And you can see the Chinese. The Chinese are coming into Thailand very strong, and you see these are the assembly plants in Thailand. So coming to your question now, can I answer your question? I think the world is very turbulent, very turbulent. We have our experience. When Trump had these tariff policies, we did not know what to do. We were exporting. Yeah, we were about to export to America. We had some big orders. And all this has stopped. So I think doing business in these times is very difficult. yeah, is like throwing a dart at a wall and hope that you throw at the right place. I think this is what's happening. During the COVID, for example, the logistics were all in a mess. Transportation price increased up by 100%, 200%. When we want to import from China, we had to book 2 aeroplanes. Because 1 aeroplane is full, our goods cannot come. Our delivery in Thailand is 100%. So we have to ensure. So you can see the difficulty on logistics. So I can't explain, how to handle this turbulent world actually. It's like throwing a dart at a dartboard today,
Indeed. But what is sure, I believe that you all would agree, is that despite uncertainty, investment is not stopping. It's just where investors are choosing to invest. And ASEAN is increasingly becoming a great resilient diversification story. So with that, we'll now explore how it is reshaping strategies at the sector level. Beginning with Indonesia, so coming back to you, Kun Teddy. Indonesia holds a strategic position in the global EV battery supply chain, and as we know that MBMA is one of the key players. So can you tell us more about the business itself and how we can maximize this advantage to attract long-term FDI in battery materials and clean energy?
Yeah, I think for Indonesia, one of the key aspects very much required is a solid roadmap. The resources itself is without question. I mean, as I said, even our company has like over 1 billion tons of nickel ore as a resource. However, the key is how to structure the supply chain. Of course, we cannot expect any company to have the capability for end-to-end, all the way to the customer end product. However, with the absence of a proper roadmap, there is a risk that you overbuild in one of the intermediary components of the whole supply chain. And that would create a pricing disruption. Because, for example, in this particular case, for example, is on the processing for nickel. If you overbuild on the MHP or NPI, what's all the other component, you will end it up causing the ore price to skyrocket. Because, as I always said, you can build a factory in a year, but you cannot add tens of millions of production in mining in a year. Now, subsequent to that, if you don't quickly follow through to the next line of production, then you have a gap, because you ended up with a whole bunch of intermediary materials that you have to export again to another country. And then if you want to build the further down the line later, you have to import from that country. And that, it's something that I don't think many countries want to endure. And I like to see how the topic, for example, is a chessboard, right? It is a trade war. The key word, it is a war. You need to have all the strategic component in place. Now, in order to do that, circling back to the investment, while a lot of people see this chaotic moment as a risk, given what I've outlined before, it actually added in demand for investment. It added requirement for investment. It added the need to have a transfer technology. For example, in the processing, Indonesia does not have the superior capability. It has to partner with another country, with the likes of China. And therefore, it means there are investment opportunity coming through between those two countries. In this particular case, it may be with Thailand for other line of industry. So that's what I meant by a lot of the investment going ahead needs to be done on a very rigorous assessment of bottom-up, because your partner could be quite different between companies and between countries.
I see. So what matters for investors today is policy clarity, resource access, partnership, as you mentioned, and perhaps downstream capability as well, because that could be a key differentiator. So let's dig deeper into some of the downstream opportunities. Beyond mining itself, what are the downstream opportunities that Indonesia should prioritize to draw in diversified FDI?
So the word of downstream is, it's highly used nowadays, right? as a cycle of, if we go back to the notion of being able to be self-sufficient over a long period of time, it's not just downstream for downstream per se. In order to be self-sufficient, I think we were discussing before, energy sufficiency, right? A lot of the country may not have the energy capability or have not built the infrastructure sufficient for it. But to dial that in further, one step further, I would think everything we talk about on downstream is a phase one. The later phase is renewability, is recyclable. So I think we need to not only think about the downstream product, but to think about product that can be recycled. And that works in energy as well. Because like it or not, if we continue to just use the resources, it's finite. If we continue to use the energy from fossil fuel, it's finite. You will use it up. And when you use it up, you will not have that sustainability. And therefore, I think we need to start thinking about what is the next step of recycling? What is the next step to provide energy that we can, renewable energy? And I just feel there's a lot of talks about it, but I have not seen as much execution on the demand that will pose itself coming forward.
When you say recycling, is it more like a long-term opportunity, or is it nearer term?
Well, depends on what you define as long-term. Let me dial to, for example, battery, all right? In the battery business, a lot of people are now looking into an EV that are able to provide cheaper costs, racing to the bottom on the battery price. Now the question is that battery recyclable? If not, you will end up with a battery at the end of the 10 years. What are you going to do with those batteries? Where are you going to throw those away? They are toxic as well, all right? So you need to find the materials that after 10 years, you can recycle it, because otherwise, you will end up using up a lot of the natural resources. So all this talk of EV using non-recyclable, you're still using up resources, right? So, and likewise, when you're developing a lot of this product, you use a lot of energy. If you use that energy using, sorry to say, fossil fuel, you are not actually renewing. I think there needs to be a very serious move looking into energy development through solar and a lot of the other renewable energy to support the development of the infrastructure need ahead.
Right, from materials, we've moved to mobility. So back to Kun Yeap. Thailand is a major automotive hub, we've seen from your slides. Now, how can APICO leverage this position to attract FDI in the next generation mobility solutions such as EVs, autonomous systems, and connected vehicles?
Yeah. I like to make 2 points here. Yeah. Point number one is about the supply chain. Yeah. I think the car industry is very unique. A car, you can calculate 4,000 parts or 3,000 parts, depending how you calculate the components. So if one component is missing, a car cannot be assembled. So the supply chain in the car industry is very unique. It has gone to a very high efficiency. And when the ships do not sail, you use the aeroplanes. Now you have to use all means to bring a component to the assembly plant. So the supply chain of the car industry has evolved, and this supply chain actually helped other industries. So I think this is the first point of the car industry. In the case of Thailand, I think I've mentioned, the first pillar of Thailand of success 20 years ago was the pickup. Yeah, we produce all the pickups for the world from Thailand. I don't know whether you're aware of this. The only other country producing pickup is America, and the cars are only sold in America. Our pickup goes to 100 countries. That means we have to satisfy the Australian rules, the German rules, the Japanese rules, or the English rules. So the car actually is very refined, the pickup. So that was the first successful pillar. The second pillar in Thailand was the eco car. Again, successful but less successful. And I think now this is the third pillar. Why are all the Chinese brands coming to Thailand? This means Thailand has done the right thing. All the Chinese putting their main investments in Thailand. some in Malaysia, some in Indonesia, but the main bulk is in Thailand. So I think if you ask me how has Thailand evolved in the car industry, I can say in the car industry very well. But for other industry, I'm not so familiar. So I cannot comment on other industries. So, but as far as I'm concerned, whoever is sitting in Thailand with the car industry, you are in the right place. So I think a compliment to the long history of the good policies of the Thai government.
Well, that's good to hear. And since we're seeing investment flowing in from Chinese automakers, how has this changed the competitive dynamics for suppliers like APICO? More opportunities, more pressure?
Whenever big companies come into your country, I think there's concern. Because we are small. China is big. China produces 30% of the cars in the world. You saw in my presentation, 90 million something is global car production. Last year, China produced 30 million cars. Thailand used to produce 2 million cars. Last year, 1.5 million. And you can see when the Chinese cars came to Thailand, the prices fluctuate up and down because their volumes in China is so big. When they have stocks, they can come to Thailand and reduce the price. So I think it's very competitive. The assembly plants are here. The automotive component plants are coming to Thailand. How do we survive? I think we have to work very, very hard, very, very hard. I think if you remember, 100 years ago, Chinese came to Thailand with no money, with only a trousers and a plastic bag, and they are very successful in Thailand. Today, the Chinese coming to Thailand, they don't come with a plastic bag or a trousers. They come with money, they come with technology, they come with everything. So the competition is very much fiercer. So I think, I'm not sure how to compete, but we are trying very hard. Okay?
Definitely. But yes, with the supply chain shift, we've seen APICO strengthening Thailand's role in the supply chain of the automotive industry as well. So thanks to you. Now, supply chains do intersect directly with energy cost, stability, and sustainability. So this next question comes to Kun Somruedee of Banpu, a leading international energy provider. Banpu has been driving its shift from traditional energy to a much greener solution. How can Thailand and ASEAN leverage this transition to attract FDI in clean energy and smart power infrastructure?
Thank you. So since this morning, we have heard a lot of terms, so-called fragmentation, diversification, and we have all of the business leader here. If you look at Merdeka, you look at Frasers, and you look at APICO, they all have a very attractive sector for FDI to come in. And with all of the infrastructure, all of these growth or all of these FDI attraction, they cannot move very well without energy transition. Therefore, that's the reason why we have Banpu here to provide an integrated solution for all of the clients and customers throughout Asia Pacific. So one of the driven for Banpu is the transformation in which we consider it as a journey that we have accomplished for more than 10 years now, and it will continue. So this journey, it won't stop. So that is the key driver that we would like to encourage all of the ASEAN's companies and investors to ASEAN to focus into this transition into the clean energy. And then we can build Thailand and countries in ASEAN as a clean energy hub, and that can attract more and more FDI because everyone is now so tense with the challenge on the decarbonization, digitalization, and also decentralization with the pursuit for a balance of a trilemma of environment, a trilemma of digital, and a trilemma of the distribution network on the supply chain. So with positioning ourselves as a clean energy, as Banpu have done for over a decade now, it will be a stimulus factors that attract the investor, and that will support all of the sectors that we have mentioned and that we have listened this morning. It won't be a success transition without energy transition. It's quite a great opportunity for Thailand to position ourselves as a hub for clean energy, also back up with a battery storage or a battery project, battery farm in a larger scale. I think these are the gap that we are now looking for, filling in this gap, and we should open for more easy to entry or no barrier to entry that will attract more and more FDI, including the private equity or a private investor, small or large. Those can come in without a barrier to entry. So this will build on partnerships with others. And for these FDI coming in, if we top up with the financing facilities from the bank, like Bangkok Bank, Khun Chasri have mentioned this morning about the support from the banking sectors from Bangkok Bank. I think this top up with the FDI and support by the good environment, investment environment in the countries, this can position every country in ASEAN to be a good company to bring in more and more funds, bring in more and more partnership. And Patedi, ITMG and Banpu is ready to be in partnership with you in Indonesia as well. We have ITMG as a listed entity in Jakarta Stock Exchange. I think this kind of partnership that we can build from the bottom and earn trust between each other, and with the linkage from Bangkok Bank, we can build a more and more stronger partnerships and attract FDI into every part of the industry, every segment of the industry, and then top up with the digitalization. That is the key as well.
We'll talk more about the collaboration a bit later, but beyond power generation, let's dig deeper into this issue. There are new business models under the energy symphonics approach, as mentioned by Banpu. So we have things like energy as a service, battery storage, or digital energy platforms. What do you see as high potential for ASEAN in the next 3 to 5 years?
It is happening now, and as I mentioned, as a journey, this is the reason why we exist for Southeast Asia and the Asia Pacific, to provide a one-stop platform for all of the business entities. And these can be named as two parts. The first part as the energy as a service, because if we look at all of the SME in every country, especially in Thailand, we have collaborated with Bangkok Bank to share our knowledge on the road to net zero for Thailand. We can call this as an energy as a service, or EAAS. Under our energy symphonic strategy, we would like to provide a one-stop platform so that the clients, they don't have to invest a lot of capital expenditure upfront. We can educate them instead of thinking of energy transition or sustainability as an investment. They should rethink that this energy transition and sustainability is actually the investment in the operation. It could be at the operational decision, and that will move faster forward with the transition and journey on the road to net zero. This is the first part of the EAAS that we provide, from the advisory, like the energy analytic on how the client use the energy, and then we design which type of energy generation suitable for our clients, and link to e-mobility, link to battery storage, even the waste management. So all of these we can design according to the client's requirement or client satisfaction. Therefore, we have set up Banpu Next Company Limited, which is 100% owned by Banpu, to take care of this part as energy as a service to our clients. The second part is a very key and pretty much linked to Patedi's business as well, is the battery. Because without battery, we cannot have a very smooth and stability on the energy transition. We have plenty of renewable, solar farm, wind farm, every renewable. However, what is the bottleneck is we don't have enough substation, we don't have enough transmission line to transport electricity. We promote a lot of the digital economy, taxonomy, data center, but investor, they got stuck with a lack of adequate electricity because we don't have sufficient transmission line to the data center. So these have to be rethink and planned. Therefore, another part that Banpu or every business in Thailand and ASEAN can think about is how we use the battery as a storage so that we can scale up on the energy security, on the energy reliability, and then we can have a faster move on the energy transition. And this will be the key because without battery, we cannot have a good stability on the energy transition. Without energy transition, all of the plan for every sector in the industry, all of the opportunities, we cannot make it sustainable because we cannot live with a fossil fuel. Fossil fuels still remain, but on a declining speed, whereas renewable will be increasing in terms of the investment and the utilization. But all of the renewable energy, we need stability and reliability using a battery. So two parts that Banpu encourage and would like to borrow Khun Chasiri encouragement for us to look at this year and the future as an optimism. And we believe that the energy transition is one area that you can utilize as the encouragement power to make your business sustainable. Energy as a service, you don't have to invest a lot. We can do that for you. And the battery storage, we can implement the BESS or battery energy storage system. We have experience like in Australia, in Japan, that we can bring into ASEAN or even in Thailand at a larger scale. Okay.
Now that we've discussed energy systems, supply chains, let's go to platforms that host FDI on the ground. So back to you, Mr. Lim. Vietnam and Thailand are rapidly urbanizing and industrializing, as you mentioned. How can developments led by Frasers Property help shape the next wave of FDI in real estate, logistics, and smart cities?
I think we talked about today a lot on the shift of FDI capital flow coming to ASEAN. I think this is something is real, it's happening at the moment. I think from real estate perspective, it's same with what just the Secretary General said this morning as well. Are we ready to receive them? From the people, labor, readiness. And from real estate perspective, I look at when FDI coming as a manufacturer from China, they're coming, first they look at the right infrastructures, the land itself, first of all, the industrial land. And they may start looking at trying to lease factory or warehouse as a start itself. But do we actually provide a so-called a grade of the standard that they want? Actually, in China today, the build quality and build standards, even when it comes to sustainabilities, they call it the Green Star certification, everything is very, very mature. They have their own system of certification, their own system to work on sustainability. But the expectation from the government is very, very high. In fact, they have a lot of incentive to do that. That's why the entire country is booming. But when it comes to ASEAN itself, the question is really, are we ready? Do we have something similar? Do we have something that will fit them as well? Actually, this not only apply for Chinese, but apply for a lot of the Western FDI as well. So ESG compliant hardware, building, readiness of infrastructure like power, green energy, things like that, is actually very important to make sure that we are well prepared to have them. So once they come in, they look at the factory for lease, let's say, okay, they say whether the factory is a green certification, the building grade standard, fine. When you have it, and then they can come in. Even for the land itself, they buy the land itself, they will ask for whether the power is ready or not, water is ready or not. Like example, like I'm Malaysian, like Mr. Yeap, but in Malaysia, actually, they're putting a lot of data center in Johor at the moment, but there's a noise now, actually, not enough power, which is true. So people buy the land, they want to build data center, but it just cannot be done at the moment. So then another second layer from my business as well, from real estate, I also look at when FDI coming to the country itself, they also look at whether can I get a good office space or not, workplace for my staff, whether there's talent for me to recruit, there's a space for my people to work as well. Just give an example, actually, in Ho Chi Minh City, in Vietnam itself, actually, the entire market of the Ho Chi Minh City, Saigon itself, the leasable area for office is only 2 million square meter. 2 million. In Thailand, we have 11 million. In Bangkok, we have 11 million. They have 2 million. Then in terms of grade A, good building in Vietnam, I think just handful building. That's why the interesting phenomenon is actually the office rental in Vietnam is actually can be double of Bangkok now because there's no supply. And when they have no supply of good office building and FDI coming to the country, they cannot grow. They cannot grow because actually if you look at work with one of the European company, they must make sure that the office building must put into a green certified, a LEED platinum building. But they come to Ho Chi Minh City, they cannot find. It's just a handful building have that kind of the standard. So come back to Thailand itself, I think we have 11 million leasable area in Bangkok City itself. And today, actually, we are building a lot of good grade of office. So, in fact, I will say very proudly that I think Fraser Property, together with shareholder TCC, actually, when we built One Bangkok project as well, actually, we try to bring in the best possible standard in the world. In fact, I always say that our office in Thailand actually better than Singapore. The way of the hardware, software, the services, the amenities, the engagement with the tenant, is because Singapore, everything is very expensive. But in Thailand, actually, we still have a very reasonable cost for us to do things more than what you can get in Singapore. So I think in order to attract FDI, as I say, I think may not answer your topic clearly, your question clearly, but important is actually, are we ready to receive? But I think, to be honest, Thailand is ready. Vietnam is, if you can have a good product and you have a right skill set, right, how to say, build a right quality and maintain it well, you still can get a lot of the FDI come to you. So that's why I think for us, we are running as a Singapore-listed company, using the Singapore way and with a certain knowledge coming from Australia and Europe, that our project there to learn the new way of building building qualities and the services we also call real estate as services, like electric as services, but real estate as service to make sure our tenant, our customer actually being engaged early and to really can achieve the objective together with our objective. Another example is about we are doing a lot of build-to-suit factory and warehouse for the tenants. So we actually have to engage the tenant early to really align our ESG objective together. So we also pledge for ESG to achieve the net zero by 2050. The first Singapore listed company, real estate company did that in Singapore Stock Exchange. So when we work with our tenant itself, we work to the tenant that we like-minded. So just one example, as we work with the e-commerce, SPX, Shopee. Actually, we started in Thailand with them in 2022, the first automated sorting center. But now we have 4 with them, actually. We did in Vietnam 2, and then back to Thailand another 1. So we have 4 with them. By providing to understand them, to really match the ESG objective for both sides, and also to really give them assurance that actually you can put your machine with me. My factory is safe. I build the right quality. I build the right standard for you. So in order for us to attract FDI, we need to be ready as well. I think this is very important.
So we do have the features that can improve bankability for the customers. And of course, that will increase the confidence in the place they operate in. The next question for Mr. Lim is, your perspective on industrial growth across the region. What stands out? Which countries stand out as key FDI destinations, and which segment are seeing robust growth and deserve close attention from investors?
I think every country have their own strength and weakness, actually. I would say we all grow in the different maturity. I start with Vietnam first. Vietnam is a very young country. They started the economic reform in 1986. They call it Doi Moi. That's the first time because they have Vietnam War, things like that. So they started quite late, actually, as compared with other countries in ASEAN. So we kind of, after World War II, we start in 1960s, we start grow the country, reform the country itself. They are very young and they're very new. And they have a lot of advantage, like they have very young population, 100 million population. Of course, Indonesia has 300 million population. Vietnam also not small, 100 million population, and the average age is about 32. It's very young. And one really interesting for Vietnamese is actually they have a habit of the high saving rate. They put a lot of money in the bank. So they put 40%, 45% of their income into the bank as deposit. So that's why I love Vietnam to do residential real estate, because the housing demand is always there. They have a lot of money their life is actually, once you got money, you're going to marry, you're going to buy a house. A bit like the older day of China. Without house, you cannot get married. So Vietnam also have that kind of the situation. So for FDI perspective, if you look for more labor intensive, I think I would say Vietnam is a really, really good. Of course, they are no longer doing they used to be started with textile, all those things. That they also kind of upgrade themselves to more electronics. This is really thanks to Samsung and Apple, actually. So if I'm not mistaken, Apple today has invested about $16 billion in Vietnam. They moved the Macs, they moved the AirPod, they moved their iPad, all the production from China to Vietnam, because they need diversification. That's for Apple perspective. That actually helped to bring out all the supply chain moving to Vietnam as well. So I think come back to Thailand itself. Thailand, as what Mr. Yeap has said, is a very long history of automotive, actually. Traditional gasoline car. I'm not in the car industry, but I can understand actually Thailand is very mature in that. That's the reason why all the EV are here. Because we do have the skilled labor, we do have all the supply chain, we do have the readiness as compared with our peer in ASEAN. So where they choose the country to go, it really depends your current status. And they'll do a scoring as well. So they shop around the country. Usually they come there where they go. They won't go Singapore. Singapore too expensive. They'll go to Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam. That's 4 countries. Very, very clear. Very, very clear. But Malaysia is another problem. Malaysia, no labor. Got problem with labor. So because the population is very small. And I think the country also, you cannot find people work in factory anymore. So Malaysia got other problem. I think Mr. Yeap can add on that. That's my understanding when we deal with the FDI when you look around. Thailand got the skill set. Vietnam got the lower cost base. And in the past, about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, Vietnam still give a very good advantage of lower land cost, but no more actually. The land cost is more expensive than Thailand now, which I also cannot rationalize, but it's because of limited the land reserve in Vietnam that created such a problem. Yeah, but again, they choose you, not we choose them actually. We need to be sexy enough for them to come to us. Yeah.
So ASEAN is still attractive and resilient. Now, let's move from the overview, the bigger picture, to a much concrete example on the ground. So let me transition back to Kun Teddy. With MBMA's expansion into HPAL, or the high-pressure acid leach processing, how can Indonesia lead in sustainable and value-added mineral production?
Yeah, so I think the value add itself is pretty clear, right? When you go from ore to a more refined product. But I think what more interesting here is how the technological advancement contributed to this whole development. So historically, the conventional processing of nickel actually used a pyrometallurgy. So you use a furnace, you take a lot of energy, you practically process it on a very high temperature. And typically you do that on saprolite ore. So for those, not jumping too much technical, but historically what you call nickel is the saprolite. But today, the development is actually using limonite. Limonite is, if you're more familiar with coal mining, for example, is the overburden. Used to be the waste. So the technological advancement today are using what used to be a waste to be a refined product. That's the component that goes into your EV battery. And to add to the matters, the HPAL development does not use pyrometallurgy. It uses hydrometallurgy. So it has a very low usage for energy and electricity, because it's called HPAL because you leach it. It's a high pressure acid leach, right? But for us, one of the components that was quite groundbreaking, and it gets more to do with the geology of the ore itself. So even though limonite used to be waste, the geology of it allows it to be transported using pipe. So between our processing facility to our mine is a 60 kilometers travel. If we are transporting saprolite, which is rocky, we have to use dump truck, haul truck. For 60 kilometers, it costs us $14 per wet metric tons of ore. But what we have done is we have actually built a 60 kilometers of pipe connecting between our site to our processing facility. And we transport it using water. And the cost of transport itself, because you don't use truck, you don't use fuel, it's only $3 per wet metric tons. So that, to me, you saved up about $10 to $11 of costs. And this is, we are talking not on a nickel tonnage, I'm talking about wet metric ton of ore, which is, if you look at LME, that's the tonnage of nickel. Today, it's about $18,000. Equivalent to the ore today, it's about $30, $40. So can you imagine, on goods that you sell for like $30, $40, you're saving $10 of the cost. And on top of that, you're using material that used to be a waste in the past. So I think those are the kind of technological advancement, not just the country, almost the world needs to see. It's almost like a recycling of, or re-commerce, reusing of what used to be a waste. At the same time, what we have done also is in one of our other mine, we have a pirate. Those are a waste from our old mine in Weta, by the way. And we're able to use that to produce sulfuric acid. I don't know if many of you are familiar. Sulfur today is like over $500. So sulfuric acid today is almost $200. To dial back 18 months ago, it was $40. It's almost $200 today. Why? Because the second largest component of MHP is the nickel product used for EV and battery. The second largest cost component is actually sulfuric acid. So we were able to use what used to be a waste from our old other mines, and today to produce sulfuric acid, the cost we are producing today is like $25. And of course, we use it for ourselves, but the way we looked at it is, should we have been buying sulfuric acid externally, it would have cost us $200, where today it costs us about $25. So, I think when we looked at the downstreaming kind of like progress, it is also important not to just kind of think about how far you can go towards the end customer product, but how you can make it optimized and efficiently better to be self-sufficient almost in every single part, right? As I always like to say it, I know most government have the tendency to want to hoard this whole supply chain within their own country and says, I want company A to produce from resources mining all the way, let's say even to battery. But I then pose this question, how many end customer products are being produced by Rio Tinto, BHP, right? None. Every single company have their own expertise. Upstream companies may able to expand probably up to midstream, but to expect downstream is hard. Likewise, downstream company, very rare you see the development all the way to the upstream. They typically stops at midstream. This is where the partnership happens on the midstream. This is where you find the JV between the upstream and the downstream. And this also, when you get it right, in my view, is where the future investment opportunity is. Because this is things literally getting developed as we are living today.
Very efficient and a sustainable approach, delivering long-term economics, I would say. Now, coming back to manufacturing and mobility, to Mr. Yeap, ESG is becoming a key investment, we all know that. But how is APICO integrating sustainability into its automotive production? And how can this help Thailand lead in green mobility?
Difficult question. Eh? But before I
I
answer,
saved it for you.
before I answer the question, can I tell a story?
Sure.
Because what I've said earlier is incomplete. Eh? So I like to tell this story so I complete what I said earlier, which was partially complete. Eh? I went to China with an ex-minister of Thailand. When he was in China, he made a speech. He said the dragon's body is in China. The dragon's head is in India. The dragon's tail is in Thailand. Therefore, you have to be in the dragon's body and the dragon's head. When the dragon's body moves, the Chinese is enjoying themselves. When the dragon head moves, the Indians are also relaxed. But when the dragon is angry and the tails move, I think the Thai or the Malaysians will drop into the sea. So I think the message is we have to be in India or China. So we went to China 20 years ago. Yeah? That is also the good point. 20 years ago, we have many Chinese employees. Now Chinese are coming to Thailand. I'm Chinese, but I'm only hybrid. I don't think like the Chinese from China. So therefore, for us now to work with the Chinese or the Chinese coming to Thailand, the hybrids are not able to communicate with the real Chinese. So I think this is a comment I'd like to make. We need Chinese from China to link with the Chinese coming to here so that we must create friendly relationship. Hopefully, they work with us and we can learn and grow together. So I want to complete that story about China. Yeah. Coming to green mobility and things like that, I think there's a lot of complication, a lot of confusion. Yeah. 5 years ago, they say ICE will be on a very big downtrend. Many companies invest in EV, they don't only lose millions. I think if you read the papers last year, Ford and GM, each of them lost about 7 billion. So you see, is that a mistake or not a mistake? These are global companies making proper decisions with all their technological skills. So that's why I say we're almost like throwing a dart. Yeah? Companies like that are also not sure. So I think this is a very challenging period, especially the car industry. We are not sure where are we going. There's this hydrogen thing as well. I'm not sure actually when you ask me this question, because the experts or the brains in the world are still struggling with the right answer. So if we give an answer, it's just a guess, the best guess that we can give. So I think they say in business or strategy, there must be some luck. Yeah? Like we invested in China 20 years ago. Is it luck? It's because of a speech by a smart Thai minister. We must be in China. And from our experience in China, amazing. Our Thai engineers went to teach the Chinese how to make auto parts 20 over years ago. That company has become very successful. Today, the same Chinese company, we can learn from the Chinese. They were all farmers 20 over years ago. And the acceleration of skills, the acceleration of technology. Yeah, we had about 1,000 people. Today we have about 400 people. The revenue is increased several times. Automation. So you can see the Chinese in China is a different type of Chinese compared to the hybrids we have here. So I think this is, a big change. And I'm not sure how we're going to handle this, but we'll try our best and hopefully we're lucky.
Big change and still challenging. We'll definitely be lucky because the tail is still in Bangkok. The tail is still in Thailand. The tail of the dragon, that is. Now, coming to Kun Somruedee, Banpu also has strong ESG commitments. How can these principles be scaled across ASEAN, the region, to position us as a global hub for sustainable energy?
This is according to a very clear policy. Because we are in the energy sector and we operate in 9 countries, therefore a single statement that we use to override our objective in being a great company on the ESG in the world, actually, not only in the region. That is a very clear statement from the tone, from the top, from the board of directors, from the CEO down to the operation level. Therefore, the ESG within our organization, we embed into the operation level in the operation decision is all embedded with the ESG, not looking at ESG as the capital cost, but we look at ESG is a value creation plan, and we really believe that our company performance is tied together with the ESG performance. So with that mindset that we implement throughout the organization in 9 countries, we have looked into how we really cope with the situation. One assumption is we assume every minute is a never normal world. For example, today we talk about 5 mega trends. Last year at this stage, we talk about the age of disruption. I remember last year. So every day we are facing with the mega trend, with the age of disruption. Therefore, we have to assume that there is no days that is a normal day. Every day is a never normal. What we have to prepare is how we prepare our people with a good mindset on the risk management, value creation, and most importantly, ESG. And secondly, how we design our process within the organization to be very resilient, anti-fragility, that's what we call, so that we can move very fast. And with the way that we can move fast, all of this strategy, we do it top down, we do it bottom up. So whenever there is a crisis, we can cope with the crisis. And what makes it standing strong up until now with all the support from the stakeholders, because ESG is not just for the company, but it is for the stakeholders as a whole as well. So with ESG program and ESG implementation, we will earn a lot of trust, we earn a lot of support from our stakeholders. So with these 3 on the people, process, and ESG, you will be standing very strong and standing very tall. And in the energy sector, environment is matter, social is matter, and the governance of the company is also a very significant area. So in summary, I would say, if we jump into any industry, especially on the energy transition, on the energy sector, the first is you need a clear vision to see clearly. Second, you need a very quick adaptation or adapt quickly. And thirdly, you earn trust for the stability and securities on the transition to sustainability. So this will embed all of the ESG in the companies and our people's mindset for every company in ASEAN. And that will encourage a lot of interest from investors, not only in the stock market, but as a country for FDI as well, because of the pressure that every countries, every investor have on the decarbonization and also the green economy, digital economy, taxonomy. I think this will be a very key part that we encourage everyone to look into, tie your performance with the ESG performance.
Kun Lim, as sustainability becomes a business standard, what strategies is Frasers Property prioritizing to lead in the ESG-aligned sectors, smart manufacturing, green mobility, and even circular economy?
I think everything comes from the very beginning. So for our group itself, actually, we make ESG's target as one of as a criteria for any investment we make. So any new investment we make, any new project that we want to start, we have to consider that from day one itself. So we make sure that this covered in all new developments and then in all geographical. whether it's in Vietnam, whether in UK, Australia, it's the same. So this is some basic rules that we have adopted in the organization. Then I think for real estate itself, we focus a lot more into energy saving and the building standard certification. This is the two areas that we're putting a lot of the attention to that. Like I give you an example, I think that One Bangkok itself actually, because it's a huge development, I think by completion about 1.9 million square meter. Today we are 1.4 million square meter. It's probably the largest mixed-use project in Southeast Asia today. The way how we can't really make it totally net zero, it's impossible to do that. So what we're trying to do is actually we try to see what can we do to optimize or reduce the energy consumption. So after study, we kind of decided to invest in early day to put in the centralized district cooling. This is a centralized district cooling is something that adopt in the Singapore MBFC. So and that MBFC actually the cooling system is provided by the government, by Singpower. So we try to adopt the same thing for One Bangkok. It's a huge investment that the owner got to put it in day one. But the end game is actually you are able to save your aircon energy consumption by 30 to 40%. So today, I think we're achieving that kind of the optimization to save energy itself. But in terms of other kind of industrial and residential projects itself, that low-rise residential, we are trying to work towards how to tackle the scope 3, mean the consumer itself. Because scope 3 is the most difficult to tackle. That house, the customer coming in or the resident who move in the house, all the power consumption considered scope 3 itself. The carbon they create is a scope 3. So the solar panel, things like that is very important for us. So we have tested most of our factory today, all the new warehouse, new factory we are doing. We make sure that we are trying to work towards the net zero possibility for that. Of course, battery become very important as well. So battery is still, the solution battery is very important. Once we get the breakthrough in battery, I believe actually that will help us to achieve better target on that. Yeah.
So if platforms are ESG ready, the next question would be how can companies plug into the ecosystem? Collaboration is key. So I'd like to come back to Kun Yeap. From your experience, what does effective collaboration between key players, industrial estates, logistic platforms, and energy providers look like to build an integrated EV ecosystem?
Can you clarify more clearly again your question? Trying to.
I mean, like, in order to go forward, to be successful, we need collaboration. So how can automotive leaders like AAPICO collaborate with the stakeholders, industrial platforms, logistic players, and energy providers to build an integrated EV and smart mobility ecosystem?
Wow. As I said earlier, it's a very complicated thing. And I mean, the big boys are struggling, you know. Anyway, what we do, we are also working hard on ESG as well. And very strange, we are successful always when people put pressure on us. This ESG coming to us is from the OEMs. If you don't have the ESG coming down, your auto parts will be more expensive. So we are forced, Then it works. Stock exchange also gave us scores on ESG. It works. So I think in the Asian culture, all this pressure helps us to be a better person or a better company. So we need that in our Asian culture. So in our industry, excellence everywhere is being pushed, whether ESG, quality, and everything. So I think that part, we are working very, very hard. I think we have to do and cooperate with the environment. For example, people who supply solar panels. Nowadays, BESS, battery energy storage system, we have to store the battery and use it, and how to optimize and reduce the cost. Because we can get the sun into the battery. At night, we can use, because at night there's no sun. And again, now there are software. I think you have softwares. You have expensive electricity, and then when electricity is expensive, you use the battery to take over the needs of the factory. So we are trying all kinds of things like that. And in terms of EV and mobility, I think we are doing some of it, but we cannot do too much, because as a small company in Thailand, we tried, in a way, we try to follow, and we hope that we do the right thing. And we really cannot take the lead, because from the engineering point of view, technology point of view, we are not ready. We are mainly building from print today in our business. We are not a technology leader. Not sure in the next 5-10 years we can. The only way for us that we can do that is to build our size. Because for the giant companies, they put 3% of their profit on development. We don't have the size, you know. So the $10 billion company, they have the ability to do that. Unless we build ourselves to be, you know, 5 billion or so, it's very difficult to bring your some of your expenses to development. We do some of it, but we don't do enough of it. So I think it's a challenge.
I see. For Kun Somruedee, what has to happen for collaboration to actually work, to accelerate, be it renewable energy or the EV infrastructure adoption?
Thank you for the question. This is a very key to our success in the energy symphonic strategy. We believe in the platform and ecosystem business, because only service, only product, it will no longer work in today's world. Therefore, the collaboration to build ecosystem will be a very key to success. In the nowadays, you can see a lot of business growing in the digital economy, EV sectors, charging station, e-mobilities. All of these require a platform business. When we set up Banpu next to cope with this green energy technology, we are not aiming for going solo. We need collaboration with a lot of startups, building the co-creation space that we can work together from the government part as well as the private sectors. And when we talk about the ASEAN context, and in Banpu context, it's like 9 countries context, including Japan, China, and also Australia, the US. So each have a different context. Therefore, in terms of the collaboration, we look for a local government in each invested country that we go. We look at a private sector collaboration in terms of partnership, whether a startup, late startup, or a mature company, a big giant, we don't mind. We also join hand with Chinese company manufacturing of the automobile and the battery, and investing in Thailand as well. But in the ASEAN context, I believe that one of the major part is collaboration with the government. Meaning the ASEAN also need to work together, the countries, every countries need to work together on how we design the support from the government regulation to support the investor, the private sectors, and the collaboration with among the private sectors. So the collaboration can be in the form of deregulation, allow the liberalization on the energy trading. Ideal is that to have the ASEAN-wide collaboration to form a liberal energy market, e-mobility market. It is quite ideal, challenging, but not impossible. I think all of these small to large collaboration will be very key and a very, very big action plan for Banpu as well.
So for all this to scale, the investment environment should be ready. Coming to Kun Teddy, how can Indonesia, the industrial parks and special economic zones evolve in order to support high-tech ESG-aligned investments in energy and materials?
I think if you're looking at how to put everyone together to champion ESG, I like how Kun Song puts it. ESG is not a cost. I'm a pure capitalist, I must say. I'm here to make money, right? But at the same time, because of that, I think it's very important to execute a very good and very solid ESG. This is the way I always put it to my team. We have mines with resources to operate, gosh, until my daughter retired, I would say, right? For the next like 30, 40, 50 years. If we miss production volume 1 year by 10%, the value of the company probably goes down by 10%. And we have 3 listed companies. But if we fail on E, S, and G, we may go to 0. If we did not execute environment accordingly, if we did not fulfill environmental requirement accordingly, we will get penalized and permit revoked. And even if you pass the boundaries of permit, there's still a social sanction. If you are not operating at the best practice of environmental requirement, and somebody puts you into social media and it go viral, you will get into trouble. It may bring your company to 0. If you don't handle social, you will get demonstration on your site and factory and everywhere. You will stop. It may bring you down to 0. If you don't take care of your governance accordingly, then Bangkok Bank and Kun Tony will not support us in financial, and we may go to 0. So at the end of the day, how to bring people together to champion ESG? I mean, technology is given, it's efficiency, right? It's a capitalist need. It's every company's realization that to maximize the sustainability value, commercial value of the company over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 decades, you can only ensure that if you don't get penalized on ESG. That means every company that seeks to maximize shareholder value should make sure that the ESG effort is on the best practice.
All right, now that we have heard about various issues, mostly the opportunities, so let's end with some challenges so our investors, the audience here, can be prepared if they do have plans to expand into ASEAN. So I'd like to throw this question over to Mr. Lim. What do you think is the most underestimated risk when companies expand into ASEAN? Something they would often discover just when entering the country. Is it policies? What might that be?
I think not so appropriate to say that, but I think political stability is very important for investor. I think that's a very, very fundamental, whether in real estate, whether in manufacturing, whether it's mining, things like that. I think it's all very critical for me, actually. This is the biggest risk for them. So they don't want to choose a country to invest that when there are people protest on the road, oftenly. They don't want. They don't want to go choose a country that then the labor union too strong. Then people start lying out outside the factory, ask for pay raise. I think most of the new FDI coming in, I believe most of them are very responsible company. They know what they need to do, but they also try to be very careful, so don't get into the certain challenges that in beyond their control as well. I think this is some of the risks that we need to really observe. I think for any investment, it's a very important, probably is the first of the tick of the box before they choose where to invest. Yeah.
Mr. Yeap, would you like to add on some of the
Yeah, I think
risks?
I tend to agree on this, but I think it's really simple. Yeah, I think it's simple. If you look at Singapore, how did Singapore evolve to be, such a, important place for everybody to invest? Basically, you need one good leader. One good leader needs to be honest. That is 30%. You already got 30% marks. The leader must sacrifice another 30%. Skill, another 30%. So actually, skill is not that important. As a leader of a country, you have all the whole country to select the best talents to help you to run the company. So I think it is quite a simple philosophy, actually, if you want to look at it. Yeah, we were taught this from our parents' days, from child. Be honest, sacrifice, and know your duty. I think a mother does the same thing. She is honest to her son. She looks after when they are sick. And duty, if there's something sick, they go to the doctor and things like that. So I think the 3 qualities of honesty, sacrificial, I think that is, the basic. If the basics are right, I think it's not so difficult to run a country, I think, the leader.
As simple as that. So, Kun Somruedee, if you had one piece of advice for companies considering expanding in ASEAN, what might that be?
For us to expand,
The advice for those who want to expand?
I believe from Mr. Lim and Mr. Yeap mentioned that that's really true on the stability of the policy makers, the governance to run each country. I would add on the speed. If one will consider to invest in any of the ASEAN countries, besides those two parts of the stability of the policy maker, the governance, also the speed on the adaptation of everything, because without speed, investor won't make any progress. So I would emphasize on top of those two is the speed of the implementation of the process as well.
Let's end with Kun Teddy. What would be your piece of advice for the audience?
Well, while we talk about ASEAN as a whole, we have to remember that it's made up of different countries that runs differently. And unfortunately or fortunately, depending on the outcome, each country is also affected by their own domestic politics. So we started the conversation with geopolitical global, but don't forget, every single country have their own geopolitical within its own space. And without understanding that, we may end up making inaccurate investment.
All right, so thank you very much for sharing your insights and perspectives with us. Today's message is clear. ASEAN is not just a growth story anymore. It's about resilience, diversification, and long-term positioning. It is attractive, and of course, to make successful entry, you will need plans, preparations, good friends, good partners, and a good bank like Bangkok Bank to support you. And with that, a big round of applause, please, for Kun Somruedee, Kun Yeap, Kun Lim, and Kun Teddy. Thank you very much. And now I'll hand things back over to our lovely host.